Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon. See, I have to change my
That's right. You can
greeting
change the
because we're at a
sequence
different
now.
time, right? Yeah, I've changed the sequence. Wherever you happen to be in the world, this is the Film Project. Gosh, what episode are we on? I don't even know. For
It's
18? No.
18. Yes,
Oh my
18.
gosh, 18. But that's not what's really important. What's really important is what episode is this really, Mr. Tolkien
Oh,
Professor?
right. The exciting thing is that this is episode 500, the 500th episode ever released on the Tolkien Professor podcast. So that is pretty
Wow!
exciting.
And it happened on Film.
Yeah,
Yay! The
exactly. And
crowd goes
I didn't
wild.
even honestly like remember that like it was there's so many things going on and I've got these things and then finally like the folks at Signum who helped me post the podcast and stuff sent me a message and they're like you realize that one we just posted was 499 right and I'm like no I
Wow.
did not
That is
realize that
awesome.
so
And just think back in the days when it was just Corey walking around a lecture hall, right?
exactly.
With students coughing and sniffing and whatever else,
Oh my
talking about the
goodness.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. There's
Look
been
at us now.
a certain amount of evolution going on
There
here
has been. There has been. That's awesome.
since we started. But yeah, no, it's very exciting. So actually, to to commemorate the day. Oh, sorry. So here I'm just noticing that, like, of course, like naturally, I seem to have messed it up somehow. Anyway, weird. Sorry, I'm just
What'd you mess
noticing that
up?
the Twitch channel title's
Oh
not right.
no!
I fixed it
Oh,
earlier, but it
again?
didn't take.
Does it
Yeah,
say Sauron defeated?
it does. Yeah, no problem. Anyway, so to celebrate our 500th episode here tonight, we're gonna do a special giveaway. And though, as always, we hate to disenfranchise all the folks who listen to the podcast. As you know, folks who listen to the podcast asynchronously are kind of, have been the backbone of the whole podcast thing from the beginning. So it'd seem a shame to exclude them. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give away 3 things tonight. And what I'm giving away, because of course, as you all probably know, because if you've been listening to announcements and stuff, you know that Mythmoot 6 is coming up. Mythmoot 6 with our dragon theme. That is next week. So next week, this time, I will already have reenacted the flight to the Ford. So like it is starting next Thursday. And it's going to be an enormous amount of fun. So we are we're gonna do that. So, but this year, of course, as you've probably heard, one of the primary things that's different about Mythmoot, one of the new things about Mythmoot is Mootcast. We have the ability for folks to come in and watch and, at least to some extent, participate in all of the live sessions throughout the weekend. And to get access to a full digital archive of the recordings of all of the things for the whole weekend. So it's really cool. It's a $75 registration for Mootcast for all of the 4 days. So we're going to give away Mootcast seats to 3 people. Now, if you win the drawing and you already have registered for Mootcast, don't worry. We'll give you an anytime audit seat instead, so you get access to any course in the Signum University catalog that you would like. So you get that instead of Mootcast. But Mootcast is our first is the primary thing here that we're giving away for that. So here's what you do: if you would like to enter in our drawing, send an email to info@signumu.org. info at signumu.org. Do that between now and next Wednesday, and we will and then we'll be awarding the prizes on Wednesday next week. Let's see, can you give it to someone else too? Sure, Takako, absolutely, you could give it to someone else too. That would be perfectly fine. We're not going to thwart generosity. So absolutely. Okay. Cool. So that's what's going to happen. So I hope that you guys will enter. If you so again, just send an email to info@signumu.org, and we will enter you in our drawing, and we will draw 3 names, and we will give away 3 Mootcast seats or anytime audit sessions to everybody. So just at least all you have to say is just that you're entering the drawing for the 500th celebration. That's it. That's all you got to say. Okay, cool. Very good. Anyway, so I'm so excited to share this 500th session with you. And of course, this comes on a momentous night for Film, as well as this is the first night of our new schedule. So, of course, we're in some ways sad to be leaving our old time slot. We've been on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. for, 4 years now, just about. Yeah, it's been a long time. Anyway,
and I think what did we do in Riddles of the Dark? It was in the morning too. I can't remember.
Might have been. Yeah, I think it's been even longer than
so
that.
It's been like longer.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
true. That was that slot, wasn't it? Yeah, we've been doing that time slot for ages.
It was like 7 years,
7 years,
8 years,
or something like that. But anyhow, so although we are sad to leave our old slot, and I know there are some people, especially folks on the Europe side, who have an understandably challenging time making this particular time slot. But of course, I know it also opens up opportunities for some of you guys to come. I see a lot of new faces that I don't usually see here around Film, and that's great. Really excited to see you guys, and glad that you could join us for these conversations, which I have been enjoying more and more all the time. Like I am more and more thankful for and more delighted by Film the further we get into things. So I am glad that you guys could join us for that. All right. Exactly. Tony says, now I don't have to sneak and do this at work. Yeah, I know that there were some of you kind of listening in on the sly, and I'm also glad to make honest listeners of you as we're moving forward. That's really good. Okay, so I think that's it. Myth Moot coming up, the 500th, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. I think those are all the things, all the announcements that I wanted to talk about. So great. All right. Then let's get down to business, because tonight we are moving on. So for those of you who are joining us, who are new, like if you're just popping in and you've never been with us before, we're in season 4 of the Silmarillion Film Project, which means we're in the building of in the center of everyone's favorite chapters of Beleriand and its realms. So we are, tonight we're going to be talking about episodes 7 and 8 of season 4. And episodes 7 and 8, to just look at the quick overview, and this is overview and suggestions based on the outlines we made before and suggestions that people have made in our on our discussion forums. And in case you don't know where the discussion forums are, we can Marie, could you actually paste the link a link in for me so that I can copy and paste that to the chat, so to make sure everybody knows where to find that? That would be really great. Okay.
While you're doing that, I'm looking at this first slide, and it dawns on me how brilliant everybody has been, because this is kind of like the midway episode in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And the topic of the kinslaying revealed is perfect for like a mid-season big dramatic thing. I'm sure we did it on purpose. I know we planned it this way.
We did. I mean, one of the biggest questions, right, was whether or not the reveal of the kinslaying or the battle is sort of the real turning point of the season. And I know you can kind of see it either way, but this is this is definitely clearly a very big
Tony
moment.
says the whole season pretty much pivots on this. Yeah, it does. It really does.
Yeah, exactly. And then really sort of the question of where are we going to be? I mean, really some of the biggest questions of the entire season is basically like, okay, so here we all are in Beleriand. Like, what are we going to do? And how are we going to get along? We left the Noldor almost at war with each other, of course, right? At the end of the last season, with Fëanor dead and Fingolfin arriving, we Of course, then how are they going to get along with the Sindar? What are any of them going to do about Morgoth? So establishing what is life in Beleriand and how is it going to work, and is everybody who needs to work together going to be able to work together in order and able to sort of make this all happen? That's really sort of the biggest issue. So the kinslaying, by far the most dramatic element, right, in this whole thing, and this reveal, of course, being a major turning point. Yeah, good. So let's see. Let's see.
I'm getting it.
I just want to check.
I'm getting it, actually.
Our Twitch is running okay, right? We got Twitch running. I think we do.
Oh, somebody. I don't know.
Okay,
Somebody asked.
I think we do.
Somebody else.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure we do. I can tell from the comments that people are hearing what we're saying, so that's good. Yep. Yeah, it's up and running. Okay, cool. So I have a couple big picture questions though. Before we get into the nitty gritty of episodes 7 and 8. I'm kind of thinking about the big picture here. So just again, quick review here. So 7 this is when Thingol is going to discover the truth, right? Círdan is going to come and tell him what he's worked out and what he's learned and what he's worked out about the kinslaying, and of course Angrod and Finrod, though sort of in different spirits, are going to come clean about that. And then we get the ban. Okay. And then in episode 8, we're looking at being a largely Angband focused episode. And having the real beginnings of the catch and release program, and Morgoth returning for a little hiatus from his vacation out in Hildorian in order to lay the spell of bottomless dread whammy on folks here in Angband. And anyway, then we're going to get some other stuff that we can talk about there too, again, as we're thinking about the kind of fallout. And hang on. So remind me. So Marie, the ban itself won't get issued until episode 8. Is that right? So he's reacting, right, in episode 7, and then he actually issues the ban. So we get a certain amount of delay.
See, look, she's so good. Look at that. It's up to us.
It's up to us. There we go. Okay, we'll have to see about. Okay, so good. So we need to think about that. All right. So let me. Okay. So as I say, big picture. One thing I'm a little bit uncertain about the kind of gap here. So one thing that strikes me about these two episodes as we currently have them laid out is that they're very, monochrome. That is, this episode, like, is there even a B plot? I don't think we have a B plot at all for episode 7. I'm not saying we have to have a B plot, but it's like just in Doriath, right? And we don't come into contact with anything else. And then episode 8 is going to be a lot of Angband, and that's a little bit odd in one sense, in that we've never spent that much time in Angband. I mean, like on end, like we visited occasionally. We'd like to, I mean, as we've talked about a lot, I like to think about how we're developing the characters of the bad guys, and especially we have to stay in touch with our clandestine central character of the entire series, Sauron. But to have a whole episode which is primarily an Angband is going to be hard. And I'm not sure that we really want to do that. Well,
I don't see a problem with kind of shaking it up a little bit. I mean, in the sense of it would be something different, than we've done, and have it be Angband centric, or at least Morgoth verse centric. I mean, it may take place other places as well. I was just sitting here thinking we could even push the decision about the ban to the next episode after, or have it happen right at the end of this episode, and then basically we got almost like a cliffhanger, go to Angband, do the next episode. I mean, I think it could work, and it would be something that would be a little bit of a different, what are we in, season 4? We got to spice it up a little bit, do a little differently.
Well,
keep the audience interested.
I hear that, and I think that it could conceivably work, but here's my other concern. Episode 9, if I'm not remembering this correctly, of course people will remind me, but I'm pretty sure that episode 9 is when the battle is going to happen. Right, we're going to have the battle breaking out in episode 9. And so the primary brunt of the battle is going to be on the folks in the north, right? Fingon and Fingolfin and Maedhros. Well, not Maedhros. It's not going to be over on Maedhros' side. It's going to be over with Fingon and Fingolfin, and we won't even have checked in with them. I mean, maybe we show reaction shots in episode 8 to reactions to the ban. I mean, right? So we can kind of bring it in there. But
the ban could be the B story in the Angband series. In fact, I was wondering do we have actually Morgoth opining about the ban? Is that one way the audience could actually find out more about the ban, is hearing it from the bad guys, not hearing about it for the first time. I don't mean that's where we would hear about it for the first time, but I mean,
I kind of like that. Actually, what if we did hear about it for the first time?
Well, it could be. I mean, I don't know. What does everybody think? I mean, that could be. I was thinking this series, episode 7, at the very end, the ban, Thingol's declaration could happen.
Right.
And then, season 8 actually could even start with Morgoth's spies coming and telling him about the ban. And he's like, rubs his hands and says, "Ooh."
Episode 8. Right. Yeah, exactly. Sauron would clearly be the first one to know about it.
Yep.
And he would love it and feel, with some justification, that this is like the fruit of his work, right?
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thuringwethil will be like thrilled. Well, she'll want a bonus.
Well, exactly, right? Yeah, she gets a promotion. Definitely a rise in pay for Thuringwethil after this, right? Let's think for a second. Where is Sauron right now, psychologically speaking? He's not... We've shown him in rivalry with Gothmog, right? But I don't think he's merely in, toadying competition.
No,
right? Like, he's not toadying to Morgoth. Has he reached the point? The point will come, right, when he begins to think about setting up on his own, or at least, he came to Morgoth in the beginning, in season 1, and then into season 2, when Morgoth was gone, because he was a believer, right? He was a believer in Melkor's way of doing things, right? And he preferred Melkor's methods to Manwë's methods. But of course, he's never really been devoted. He doesn't have personal devotion. I mean, like that line which people sometimes like to quote from the Valaquenta about him being less evil than his master, only in that for long he served another, just means he was working for someone else. It means he wasn't 100% selfish the whole time. It doesn't mean that he loved him or was devoted to him.
Well, it also doesn't necessarily mean to me that he wasn't still doing it for his own ends. You know what I mean? It's like it served his own interest to serve Melkor, kind of thing. You know what I mean? I always kind of thought of it that way, or Morgoth. I would think, so the other thing is by the time Luthien gets to him, right, he's pretty established by that time, right? So we're kind of on that continuum, right? That's kind of where we're heading to with him, with his development. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and obviously we need to make sure that we're playing the long game. Maria's thinking we're not yet at the point where, because exactly, Maria. I mean, if thinking big picture here for a second, and by big picture, I mean from where he is in season 1 when he first kind of goes over to the dark side, right? But of course, still thinks that he's doing not exactly what's right, but what is best, right?
Right.
Like this is the way that rule should happen. This is the best vision for Arda, and certainly the most effective way to achieve his vision for Arda, Melkor's vision for Arda. Like, this is, it was way better than Manwë's method, right? He's still certainly very, and the thing we've been wanting to resist from the very beginning is simply making the bad guys look like, I just go to the beach and kick people's sandcastles over for fun on my free time. Like, I just enjoy destroying things because I like destruction, and I like evil because evil is fun. Like, they're not like that. And we don't want to make them cartoonish, and we certainly don't want to make their falls too precipitous. The parallel I've often made, because it was to me the most comically unsatisfying depiction of the fall into evil that I've ever seen in the modern world, is of course Anakin Skywalker in The Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, yeah.
When he goes from like, I'm just worried about my wife to I'm ignoring my wife for this and going off to murder a bunch of children just like because I should. I mean, like,
yeah,
psychologically,
it didn't have any.
It didn't have any
yeah.
real oomph. It didn't. It was very.
Did we not?
Yeah.
I remember a conversation, but I can't remember if it was a conversation. You know how sometimes we'll like go, oh, well, in 16 episodes from now, we need to do bloody bloody.
Right.
But I do remember us talking about Sauron at some point. It might have been around now, where he's kind of like, or was it when Melkor's gone, or Morgoth's gone? Where he's like, wait a second, I actually know how to do this better. I got a better way. Are we at that point now, or did we talk about doing that like later?
Well, see, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, so if we kind of think for a second about the big picture arc of Sauron, right? He starts with like, he is, of course, he's one of the Mire of Aule, right? He likes making, he appreciates cleverness and making in like the free scope to make things and to shape things, and he follows Melkor because he believes in strength rather than like Manwë looks weak and restrictive, and so he goes with and yes, Marie, exactly. He's impressed with Morgoth's power.
Morgoth's power.
Right? Morgoth is the one who's getting things done, right? This is the way that Arda should be ruled, not with these kinds of bizarre halfway measures.
Melkor. Remember, I think we did that, and he's like, he's really kind of won over when he goes to Melkor's.
Yes, when he sees Utumno, right? Exactly.
Yeah, he sees Utumno.
That
right,
is beauty.
exactly.
That is grandeur.
Yeah.
That is and
it's
what's
like,
more,
this guy's got the right idea, kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you remember in season 1, the way that we did that, which I still love that in retrospect, the way that we had Melkor setting up his seat of power in Middle Earth, and the Valar retreating to Valinor, and widening the sea, right, and building up the Pelori. So basically, it looks like they're just like being isolationist, right? So the whole initiative of like, Melkor says, no, we should be here, in Middle Earth. We should be ruling the Great Lands. We should be ordering them ourselves, not retreating, right? Not running away from them, not turning our backs on them, right? So Melkor is the proactive one, right? Melkor is the again, it's strength and power and directness and straightforwardness, right?
Well, I gotta say, if I was around at that point in time, I'd probably be a total sucker for Melkor, because I mean, it is true. He's got a good, he's got really good points.
Exactly. Yeah. No, very. It's very attractive. So he is. It's interesting, actually, thinking about this now. I'm kind of feeling like it's also, of course, it's always possible that we've thought this through very carefully before, and I've totally forgotten it. But I feel like I haven't thought this through in some ways. We know that he admires Melkor and supports him. We also were showing in season 2. So at the end of season 2, Morgoth returns. And he's been burned by the Silmarils, and he is barely escapes from Ungoliant, right? He's in a bad place, right? Morgoth not in the best headspace at that particular time when he returns. Did we decide, and and obviously Nick and Marie and y'all who have been talking about this on the discussion boards can help me remember, what was Sauron's reaction? The thing I remember most clearly is that Sauron had begun the whole orc project, right? But he wasn't just making wicked, evil, twisted, horrible creatures filled with hate and rage in order to be instruments of cruelty and destruction to others. That wasn't the plan for the orcs. He wanted to create disciples, right? He wanted to, in fact, I don't think we didn't draw this parallel explicitly, but I think it would be interesting to draw the parallel between what Sauron was trying to do with the elves that he captured and what Aule was doing when he made the dwarves, right? He wanted learners to whom he could,
and that would have
whom
been
he could
almost
teach.
Sauron. That would have been in Sauron's mind, probably. In the, like that would be the. I seem to remember, and again, script team will know, but it seemed to me like when Melkor comes back, burned by the Silmarils and whatnot, and sets up shop, at that point in time, Sauron and Gothmog had kind of been like co-leading, but there wasn't like a lot of stuff. It's what sticks in my mind is when Melkor goes to find the humans. Morgoth goes to find the humans. Was the time that Sauron really got a taste of running things.
Yes. I mean, I think that he's, I mean, this point right now is when he is most in charge. He was always during season 2, while Morgoth is while Melkor is in prison and then living in Valinor thereafter, Sauron is kind of running his own show, but it's a sideshow.
Right.
Gothmog is the one who's sort of in charge of things. And as Marie says, when Morgoth comes back, Morgoth is saved by the Balrogs, right? Gothmog and his folks rescue him from Ungoliant. So, as Marie says, Gothmog is on the ascendant. Sauron made the fallen elves to worship Morgoth, but Morgoth comes back, and in the place where Morgoth was, right, full of pain and rage and hatred, he takes Sauron's work and twists it. Right, and he makes Bulldog the sort of prototype orc, and then fills the orcs with his rage and his hatred, and twists them into what they are. So the full corruption of the elves into orcs happens from Morgoth, in Morgoth's anger. Did we talk about Sauron's reaction to that?
I was just going to ask you that because that had to have been. I was saying maybe you guys did because it might have been a time when I couldn't be, I had to leave or whatever. But yeah, I was just thinking about that. I mean, Sauron would have been pissed.
Yeah, I mean, at least
like seriously disappointed in the sense of you're giving your boss a present and then he just basically like rips it apart and turns it into something else.
Yeah, Tony says that he wants to see Sauron's descent and rationalizations kind of mirror those of Saruman later on. They're not exactly the same, I think, but similar. I mean, Tony, if there's the certainly the core, knowledge, rule, order, that's like Morgoth's recruiting flyers, like have that on the title page, right? So that's very much like knowledge, rule, and order are the things that I think attract Myron, right, to Melkor in the first place. He does all three of those things really well, and like freely and openly dispenses knowledge and establishes order and rule, strong rule. All three of those things very attractive to Myron, very much like the way that he feels like things should be, right? But
it is, that is true. It's a real parallel. Elise also made the point earlier, and I didn't want to lose this.
Oh yeah, good. I wanted to come back to that too.
The parallel with Galadriel. There is kind of a parallel here. I mean, it's kind of light and dark, but many of their motivations at this point, I would think, we could actually be showing that kind of contrast.
Yeah.
But here's what I really want to know before we treat that. I want to know, is Sauron still a ginger at this point?
Yeah, totally.
Totally? Okay.
Totally.
Or maybe even more ginger, right?
Yeah. And that's something, I'm sure we talked about this. We must have talked about this during the course of season 3. But what is Sauron's look these days. I mean, your reference to his hair
Oh God, now I got Good Omens on my mind.
brings it up. But
David Tennant's.
right,
Yeah.
right. I wonder what his look is. Like, I think we have to resist him being, like just wearing, like, dressing like Dracula and, and looking all, evil, right? I don't think he looks really evil. Yeah, Murray, exactly. He's not really Dark Lord material yet. No, I don't think he should be Dark Lord material yet.
He's not through yet, right? He hasn't even gotten.
No, he's not gotten to the Thu stage yet. He will soon get to the Thu stage, right? But that's one of the things that I'm kind of leading up to, because the Thu stage is sort of what's next, or what's close anyway. He's like a season away from being Thu the Necromancer, and so we need to kind of, this is why I want to kind of touch base with his trajectory. So let me kind of go. I never finished. I was saying I want to look at the overall arc, and then I keep getting down into details. So the overall arc. He starts off as a believer in what Melkor is selling, right? Tony, knowledge, rule, order, right? That's his deal. And then he is trying to achieve that. What we show is the moral slide is one of, like, I'm willing to defy and oppose those whom I know to be good and well-intentioned, right? It's one thing to disagree with Manwë and the other Valar. It's another thing to fight against them, right? And to resist the works that they're doing and to undermine their work and everything. But more, we see him, and in the Elf project, in the corruption, in the super secret necromantic orc project, the famous SNOP of season 2, that's the first time that we show him basically putting the ends before the means. Right, thinking like he has this vision for what the elves should be like, because he's a believer in Melkor. So he is, as you guys were saying in the comments there, he's like trying to make them worshippers of Melkor as well, right? To bring them to be true believers, and to enhance them, right? To give them power, to give them knowledge, to make them more effective servants of Melkor's vision, right? But he's doing stuff. In order to do this, he has to do stuff to them, which, like, he can't pretend is good, but what he can pretend, or what he can tell himself, is that it's necessary, right? The ends justify the means, and so his slide begins, or it's already begun, but anyway, so his slide continues. Eventually, he's going to come to the place where he's going to start questioning Morgoth. Right? Is Morgoth past it? Morgoth is, in fact, in decline. Not only moral decline, but overall decline, right? We see the restrictions on his power as Morgoth puts forth more and more of his power in order to bring Middle-earth under his dominion. He is going to be weakened and lessened and made into, a narrower, shallower, less admirable person, right? And I've got to think there's going to come a time when Sauron's when he's going to come to a point where he says, okay, I think I need to set up on my own, not because I want to rival Morgoth, but because, like, the boss, he's not all there anymore. Right. Of course, in Morgoth's case, quite literally true. He's not all there anymore. He's distributed a bunch of himself. Right. So he's like, the boss isn't all there anymore. I'm going to not get off the boat, but I'm going to at least make a little, lifeboat for myself here. And increasingly, I don't know, like, right. I mean, he's going to begin to think, for himself. Tony says, is there any point at which Sauron becomes greater than Morgoth? No. I mean, they're just too... no. I don't think he can be greater than Morgoth. One of the things to keep in mind, of course, is what we see when we get to Numenor, right? When he when he brings about the worship of Melkor by the Numenorians. But I'm thinking when we get there, Sauron doesn't do that like a fanatic. He does that as he is at that point using Morgoth as a means to his ends.
Right.
Then.
Right. He's trying to corrupt the men.
Yes, and he's using Morgoth as an instrument. He probably knows that Morgoth is locked out, right? At least for now. But he still has some access. Like, there is still power from Morgoth in Middle-earth. So I can imagine Sauron coming to a point where he believes that he can kind of harness that.
Leverage.
Yes, leverage that. And that's one of the things that he's trying to do with the Numenorians, right? Besides which, even the Kingsmen, right, would presumably balk if he led with, so, okay, everybody, I have a plan. Why don't you worship me? Right, like if he leads with that, then even our Pharazôn is likely to see through that, right?
Right.
So he doesn't lead with that. So again, but I don't believe that when Sauron is corrupting the Numenorians, again, he's doing it like a fanatic. Like he's still really truly trying to bring worshippers around to Morgoth.
Actually, I think, yes, Tony, I think he could be delusional enough to think he's greater than Morgoth. I think that is it. Not that he is, that he could think he is, and for the same reason that he turned in the first place, the greater, quote unquote, greater good. And Sauron could get to a point, especially watching Morgoth deteriorate or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's now, it's up to me. I have to do this. I have to be greater. And the thing I was thinking about is Morgoth going to have to slap him down. Is there going to come a point where Morgoth's going to have to slap him down?
See, I don't know that they'll ever come to conflict. And this is tricky because, on the one hand, OG Bray and Twitch was saying, would Sauron's kind of semi-betrayal of Morgoth be at the same time that he gets his butt kicked by Luthien? Well, see, exactly, OG Bray, this is one of the issues, right? So in the Silmarillion, here's the reality of the matter. Sauron goes away. Right, Sauron is defeated by Huan and Luthien and goes away and is never heard from again. We hear literally not the first peep about or out of Sauron until we find out what his reaction was to the War of Wrath. Right, we don't even know. I mean, we can speculate, but we don't even know that he participated in the War of Wrath. I mean, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I think probably he did. I think that we want to keep him involved in some way. But
I'm thinking spy. He could be like the intelligence arm or something.
Anyway. But it's a huge gap, right? It's a huge gap of time and of action, certainly in the Silmarillion, especially as the events kind of accelerate, right, as we move towards the War of Wrath. But anyway, it's. We don't know, right? So we do have to kind of deal with that. It does seem to me we have two choices with Sauron's story, right? We either take Sauron's story and add to it, right? So he doesn't vanish after that. Maybe he flees, and then maybe we find ways to keep him involved in a clandestine way so he doesn't make the headlines, right? He gets left out of the published Silmarillion, not because he's not doing anything, but just because he's being super covert or doing things elsewhere or something like that, right? He's not involved. So he's not involved in the fall of Gondolin. He's not involved in the fall of Doriath. I
was going to say at some point he does have to, like Marie says, he could be involved, with the Easterlings and
sure,
because he has to consolidate. I mean, at some point he had to have consolidated those relationships that we see coming to fruition, in the Third Age.
Yes.
At least, if not before then.
Yes.
So so he could be doing that kind of thing. But find the Blue Wizards, corrupt the Blue Wizards,
Yeah, there's lots of stuff he can be doing outside of the narrative focus of the published Silmarillion, right? That's not hard.
Right.
Or we could make him still involved in some ways, indirectly or behind the scenes. Like we can still keep him a part of the story throughout that section. But unless we're going to just totally change things and fabricate stuff, I mean, like, we could do that if we wanted to. Like, we could have him involved in the Sack of Gondolin. We could have him involved in the Turin story if we chose to. I'm not a big fan of that. I think it's more fun rather than just being like, let's completely scrap it and do a completely different. It's kind of more fun to work within the parameters, but say, okay, we need to think about how we can kind of make it work within that overall framework. And Tony says he could be involved in the Flying Dragon project. Right, exactly. He's off there in the laboratory, right, stitching wings onto dragons, trying to figure out how to make this work. So yeah, absolutely.
He could be like Hagrid, with his little dragons, like, and Caligon. And Caligon is a baby dragon, right?
Right, yeah.
He brings it up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm imagining now the scene with Sauron and little Caligon the Black,
little Caligon,
and him being like, oh, he knows his mummy, right? Yeah, yeah. That would totally work. Anyway, so I think that he. So there are two questions, right? And I think that we have to be careful to keep these two questions straight. One question is, what does he do? And the second question is, what is he thinking? Where is his mind then, right? And by that, and that in turn has two different elements, right? In one sense, it means, where is he on his trajectory, right? On his path down into the void, right? As we want to be able to map that. I mean, if we do this right, we should be able to show the continuous arc, right? Like the one huge overarching tragedy of Myron the Maya, right? From season 1, right? From the Ainulindale all the way through the destruction of the Ring of Power, right?
Right.
One continuous fall, story, which makes sense. But at the same time, we also need to think about, like, where is he really in his, like, moral and spiritual fall, right? But also, what does he think of himself? How does he understand what he's doing? Which is obviously quite different, right? Than where he really is in a lot of different ways. Gosh,
we may have said this before, but it just hit me either the first time or anew. He is the one character that goes from the very beginning to the very end.
Exactly. I mean, it's a very striking thing.
Hit me. Wow.
Yeah.
So Brave Melvin says he was working in the lab late one night, so that means Phil Menzies needs to include Monster Mash in the Sauron theme.
Maybe. I'm not 100% convinced of that, but yeah.
I'm sure Phil will be happy to do that.
I'm sure. He'll take that request right up. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think the question is good, although this is probably for next we're doing the episode 8 before we're doing episode 7, but I think it's a really good question because, like you say, he's like, one season away from Fu. I do think, at least like in facial expression, in body posture, in walking, I mean, we definitely see a difference. What do we see? A more hardened person? Do we see a more prideful person? I don't know.
What has he experienced? He has we've talked about the rivalry with Gothmog, right?
Right.
And he has disdain for Gothmog because Gothmog is a thug, right? Gothmog is just about pounding things and violence. Right. And he is like, so Gothmog is like the distillation of the whole rule by force thing, which, remember, Myron admired in Melkor, right? But he doesn't admire it when it is separate from, all like beauty and artistry and
aesthetics,
cunning, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Like, it is good to have
no nuance.
Yes, like the rule of the wise and the proper ordering of the world should be enforced by rule, right? Should be enforced by force. That is how it should be. Those who are best suited to plan and shape the world should run it, right? And they should run it in an unquestionable way. That I think he's down with that. That was like, again, that was the speech in season 1. Gothmog is just the Force, right? And he doesn't care. He doesn't build, he just destroys Gothmog, right? He's not even really interested in building things. He's just interested in sort of hitting things, right? And Marie, yes, Gothmog is completely devoted to Morgoth.
And
yes.
I could totally see Sauron even having a reaction to that, you know, like,
yes.
I'm not that. I'm not that. You know?
Exactly.
And Tony makes the good point, and we kind of have talked around this, but, you know, this guy is going to be the Lord, and Marie said too, he is going to be the Lord of the Rings. He is going to have the technology to make these rings, you know, in the millennia going forward. But he's a tech guy, right?
Yeah.
He was Outlay's person, and he's the tech guy.
Yes.
So that maybe is kind of the planet around which we orbit him, you know,
yes.
at the point where he's we lose him in the canon of the Silmarillion.
Right. Now, Rhiannon asks a great question. When is Sauron going to start wanting to completely dominate the wills of others, ring of power style? So my thought about it, I've been thinking, and by the way, Rhiannon, thank you so much for your contributions. Great to see you. I know you just recently got all caught up with the podcast and stuff, right? Thank you for all of your suggestions. Was thinking about several of the things that you suggested.
It's
here.
Quite a job.
Yeah, it was really good. Anyway, so thank you. But to your question there as well. So here's my thought: like how do we get to the Rings of Power, right? How we get to the Rings of Power is now Sauron. Remember that, again, that line that I already semi-quoted from the end of the Valaquenta about how Sauron follows the same path down into the void, right, that Melkor did. But see, Sauron, is following behind. That is to say, he's seen Morgoth walk that path, right? And he's seen where it ended up. He's genuinely shaken after the War of Wrath, right? And I think a big part of what shakes him is that he sees what led Morgoth down that road, right? He sees what Morgoth did wrong. So he's going to do the same thing, right? He's going to end up doing the same thing. So how does he's smart, right? How does he do this? Now, again, like, this happens all the time, right? You know, smart people end up making the same decisions, or the same bad decisions that lead them to the same bad cases as people that they know about full well before. This happens, right? This is not a strange phenomenon. This is a process I believe in, and I think that we could. But so Rhiannon, the Rings of Power are my kind of my answer to that question, really. Like, how does that happen? Basically, he's not just going to go the same way. He's not going to do this. He's not going to try to do the same thing. And there's
I think Marie's got a good point. He sees Morgoth dissipating his power, so his idea is to concentrate his power.
Exactly. The rings are his clever plan, right? He's going to do it differently. Like, on the one hand, Morgoth is clearly right. Like, his desire to assert control, right, to achieve dominion. Only through dominion can anything get done, right? That's obvious. And Sauron has been a convert to that idea from the very beginning, right? But he's not going to make Morgoth's mistake. Yeah, he's not going to disperse himself in all of these things, right? So instead, there's a technology, right? The Rings of Power is the technology that he has developed, which is going to be his instrument to accomplish that end without doing to himself what Morgoth did to himself. So yeah, it's to him, it's going to look very different, right? It's going to look very different than it did when Morgoth did it. And so he's going to be able to convince himself. But again, the fact is he's fooling himself, right? He's not actually really doing it differently. And in fact, in how he invests so much of himself into the ring, is of course exactly like the way that Morgoth weakened himself. In effect, in fact, it's worse, because all that has to happen is he has to have the ring taken away from him, and now he's weakened even before he's dead, right? He's weakened. He brings himself to a place because of the way he ties himself to his little piece of technology.
Well, that had to be a V8 moment for him.
Exactly. That now he has lost his dominion without even losing it, right? I mean, he's still there, but now he's some dumb hobbit has the ring. So anyway, like this is by which I mean Gollum, right? But anyway, it's
really got to fry his bacon.
It does, right? So the thing is totally going to backfire on him. As Marie says, mistakes were made. Exactly.
Mistakes were made.
Exactly.
Now, I have a question. Go ahead.
So just one last thing, just following up, as Tony is suggesting here, we have an even more profound fooling of himself that is only going to happen after a great deal of time, right? And that is, no, he's never going to challenge Morgoth when Morgoth is there, because he knows, like, firsthand. He's met Morgoth, right? He and Morgoth have worked together. He knows he is nothing like as powerful as Morgoth, right? But after Morgoth is gone and he's been ruling for a really long time,
and there's been no sign of the Valor,
and he has been in his own kind of moral, he is going to bring himself to a point where he does believe that he can can basically succeed where Morgoth failed. Like, Morgoth couldn't pull it off, but I'm going to pull it off, right? He needs to get to the place where he really believes that, and it needs to be. And
he'll keep seeing no signs of the Valar doing anything. I mean, he'll miss he'll miss all this, because we see that they are still involved.
Yes,
but he doesn't see any of that at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I have a question for you. So Morgoth gets to a point, and I think we're around there now, where he violently hates, like irrationally hates elves. I mean, just everything he can think of to do.
Yes.
He wants to do.
Oh yeah, Sauron I think he's
gets
there.
To that point.
Yeah.
Sauron gets to that point at some point. Now he doesn't just get it to it with elves. He pretty much gets to it with like pretty much everybody. But he's not there yet, right?
No.
At this point in time, Sauron is not there. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Sauron.
Right. Marie.
Yeah. Exactly. Melkor's there. So what is Sauron's at? So of course I'm eventually coming back not only to season 4, but even indeed to episode 7 and 8. I'm still not quite there yet, though. Okay, so hang on. So, having thought a little bit about Sauron's trajectory, and there's a lot more that we could work out, obviously, but having thought a bit about his trajectory here, big picture, where he's going to end up, thinking back to just the first age, right? Pre-War of Wrath. What is the end point for pre-War of Wrath? Right, or like at the time of the War of Wrath, like the day before, the armies of the West show up on the beaches, right? Where is Sauron at that point? And I gotta think he's watching Morgoth and thinking. So it seems to me that trying to think about Sauron's psychology, thinking first about his relationship with Morgoth, right? It first will come to doubt, right? Doubt whether Morgoth is able to pull it off. And then down towards belief that fear. There's got to be some fear involved, right? Fear that Morgoth is losing it and is just going to wreck everything and wreck him, right? Maybe down to, is he going to get to the point in the first age before the end when he feels like, okay, I need to do what I can to kind of weather this, and Morgoth is increasingly off the like it just like off the wall here, right? Can I like maneuver this, right? Can I become the one kind of pulling the strings, right? I know he's more powerful than me, but he's a little out of control.
Might Sauron have a hand in having Morgoth fall?
Tony is just asking that too.
Oh, there we go. See, yeah. Tony, you and I are thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
It's like, might he be the, Iago springs to mind, but I suppose like Iago, I mean, that type of person.
Yeah, I mean, I could see us not like having him just starting to get there, like having him, for him to be in the place where he has like essentially the kind of proto-Numenorian concept, which then never comes to fulfillment, right? And then we see him kind of coming back to it in a more mature place, right? You know, mature as far as his own plans are concerned, I mean, later on in the Second Age. But yeah, would he get to the point? And I'm thinking, no, we got to be careful, because for all I want Sauron to be really important, we can't lose Melkor, right? We can't Melkor shouldn't merely become a sort of maniacally insane monster even by the end, right? He still has to be cunning. He still has to be in control.
I wonder if, I mean, it doesn't have to be something major. If for example, we have Sauron being sort of the intelligence person, you know, he's kind of in charge of intelligence. Maybe there's like one piece of information he just doesn't pass on to Mel. You know what I mean? It's like it's a small thing. It could be a small thing. It doesn't have to be a huge like overthrow kind of thing.
Right.
But it could kind of be like, I don't know. The other thing I'm a little nervous about is that's way off canon. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like to even involve Sauron in this. Yeah. I'm not sure where my comfort level is with that. So we don't really have that. I mean, the way it's written, Melkor is the big cheese, and that's just all there is to it, kind of thing.
Exactly. No, and he is he is such a very large quantity of cheese that there's no real competition. You know, I mean, like there's just you can't fight with the mountain, right? And even to Sauron, that's what it would look like. I mean, it would look like arm wrestling the mountain to take on Morgoth, even in his sort of deteriorated form.
But, you know, my thought is, do we see, you know, one option would be that we see Sauron sort of doing very small undermines, you know, especially if what we've done is cast him. And I could see also why he would, if Morgoth keeps messing with his tech projects and keeps just, you know, corrupting his tech. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could see a whole lot of reasons why Sauron would like kind of undermine him, but I'm not even sure really Sauron would have that motivation at this point, because his fortunes are pretty much linked with Morgoth. I mean, he would want the War of Wrath to be won by
he
Morgoth,
certainly would. He certainly would. Yeah, so because he would have to know, no matter how uncertain he gets in his relationship with Morgoth, he's got to know that he's better off with Morgoth in power than, you know, with the Valar in power.
So I've talked myself out of that whole idea, because he can't, you know, even if he's disagreeing or worried, he's still going to be with Morgoth.
Yeah. And OG Bray and Twitch, that's exactly what I was just going to say. I think that the most likely scenario for Sauron, I certainly don't see him colluding with the enemy, though it's a really interesting idea, but I don't see him really doing it at the end of the day. Instead, I see, it seems to me, nor do I see him really opposing him. And the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking, like, I don't think he's going to get to a place where he has the guts to try to manipulate Morgoth. And more importantly, I don't think we want to diminish Morgoth to the point where he is manipulable by Sauron.
Yeah,
and I don't think we want to create that kind of situation where Morgoth would have to give Sauron the kind of smackdown that he would have merited if Morgoth had twigged to the fact that Sauron was trying to manipulate him. So all of those things seem to open up situations that I don't think we want to go there. But exactly what OG Bray was just saying, what I do see Sauron doing is creating a lifeboat, like I implied before. So he starts like he keeps working with Morgoth, right?
Contingency plans, in other words.
Exactly. He starts making a contingency plan. Maybe he gets the sense. Maybe he, unlike Sauron, Morgoth. Maybe he, unlike Morgoth, twigs to the fact that the armies of the West are coming. Right. Yeah. Or that they might. You know, Morgoth is all like, you know, I am the ruler forever, and he's like, you know,
not so sure about that, boss.
Not 100% sure about that. I mean, I'm with you, like totally 75%, but I'm 25% is saying maybe we need to
25% out the door.
maybe need to have a rainy day plan here at the same time.
No, I think that's actually brilliant. I think that makes That makes sense to me. Yeah. The other thing, by the way, is I honestly don't see Sauron becoming anything like a Dark Lord until after Morgoth's gone. There is that whole creation of him into the Dark Lord is going to happen after Morgoth's gone. So he's different now than he will be later, I think.
Yeah. Now we'll have to come back to Thu in a minute because we have to make Thu work within that context. Yeah. But I agree with you. I agree with you in general.
Well, see, the nice thing, I mean, as you said in one of your lectures, Luthien makes him sit up and cry mommy.
Right.
So, then it puts him, it's like he regresses.
Yeah, exactly. He's definitely got, we can probably have, some time where he's off.
Trying to be.
Yeah, well, he's going to be like in therapy.
He'll be like a Grey Lord.
For crying out loud.
Yeah, he'll be like a Foggy Lord.
Yeah, exactly. Serious issues.
Yeah,
I'm thinking, by the way, so his contingency plan, right? Sauron's lifeboat has got to be in the east, as Tony suggests, in the generally Mordorian area, right?
That makes sense.
And of course, that's where we can then connect back with what we're setting into place in Hildorian now, right?
Right.
We were talking about the kind of cult of Morgoth that will still grow and will be the in place for Sauron to take advantage of later on. I think that's what he does. I think he starts taking advantage of that. And so, by the way, quick idea that I just had as far as the Lords of the West are concerned in his pardon, like why he's not hauled off to prison. I think that he convinces them that he wasn't there. Like, and this makes it sound really silly, like he's building up a kingdom in the east to give himself an alibi to the Lords of the West. That's not exactly what I mean, but actually that's kind of what I mean, actually. So that, like, they come over and they're like, so, Myron, as was, we hear you're like Morgoth's #1 lieutenant and been doing all these horrible things. And he's like, me? No, look, I'm over here.
I've been gone. I got an alibi.
Yeah, I've been so far over here building this like utopia over here in the east, right? Just me and these men hanging out and
pay no attention to that volcano in the background.
Living the higher life. And, and they're like, well, weren't you with Morgoth? And they're like, yeah, but we went in different directions. I saw what he was doing was very bad. Yeah. So I was like, I could tell he was going off the rails. So I was like, no, I'm having nothing to do with that Melkor fellow anymore. And so here I as you can see, I went as far away from his kingdom as I possibly could go on this continent, and then here I've just been trying to build my little memory of Valinor, and I'm so glad you guys came to rescue us from that guy, right? I mean, this is basically.
And here we have a situation where the Valar also didn't learn from their bad decision the first time,
and so they pardoned him. Yeah, they let him go. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's kind of how I and this, of course, would explain why he's not around as much, right?
Yes,
we don't have to detach him. He can still be involved. He can still come in as a consultant, to Morgoth. But I'm thinking that's the move, right? He goes into the east after, that's where he ends up after Luthien chases him away, right? He goes off on a constitutional, right? He's got to go and get better. Both in body and in ego, and then and I'm thinking after his defeat by Luthien, just imagine how insufferable Gothmog has got to be after that. Right?
Oh my god!
I mean, oh my goodness! Like, he's not going to be able to look Gothmog into the flaming eyes again for millennia after that. But I do think that he is going to be involved. And Tony, I agree. I would like to see him as essentially Melkor's sort of science officer, right? He's like the evil Dr. Spock of Morgoth's realm, right? Mm-hmm. Mr. Spock, not Dr. Spock. That's somebody else entirely differently. But anyway, he's like the evil Mr. Spock, and he's the science officer, he's the inventor, right? He's the cunning one. So yes, I think it would be really fun to see him create the siege engines for the fall of Gondolin. That would be fun, absolutely. Anyway, yeah, lots of possibilities for all of that, kind of thing. So he can still be involved, but not a central character. But we can still visit him over in the East, right? I think it would be really fun for us to start building up in the later seasons of the First Age, right? To see him building up. For us to be building up the storyline of the Easterlings, right?
Yeah.
So that we begin to have a real picture of the whole trajectory of the East and where we get to. I mean, how awesome is it going to be when like the Wainwriters show up, right? And everyone in the audience like knows the whole history of the Wainwriters. Like this is oh man.
I know, it's true. It's like they're not just going to come out of nowhere. Like. He doesn't, like in the books, I mean, I never really thought about it, but it's kind of like we have to just take it on faith, right? That he has these affiliations, and we get to actually show how they get formed. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I know. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So anyway, okay. So if we get there, so yeah, I do think that his defeat by Luthien is going to be a real turning point. And the primary turning point for him, morally, spiritually, right now, he's still a manipulator. Right now, he begins to see other people like the elves more and more as tools, right? More and more as tools and instruments and less as, sort of, he never saw them quite as peers, but, again, he was kind of, originally in the super secret necromantic orc project, he was trying to lure them and sort of seduce them into being his companions, right? His like his helpers, like his junior partners, but his partners, right? In the work that he was doing for and with the vision, the Melkor vision for Middle Earth. That was thwarted in a way which was distasteful to him when Morgoth came over and turned them all into orcs instead. So yeah, Tony, good. Thank you, Tony, for being persistent about that. I've seen that, and I've been wanting to comment on that. Tony's thinking about him developing a disdain for free will. He's got to come to the point, where he's becomes more and more about dominion and less about.
And Tony's point was after the defeat of Luthien is when he starts his hatred.
Exactly.
Thing
exactly.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think that that's the turning point. So the defeat by Luthien is going to be the turning point when he is going to be first really activated by rage and hatred himself. Mm-hmm. Like he doesn't right now. He still doesn't really hate. He wants to utilize. He has the vision, right? He still has the vision of the. And again, Tony, I'm still willing to use Saruman's vocabulary, right? Knowledge, rule, order. That's what Sauron is still about, and the vision of what he wants to bring about. And he's still wanting to sort of recruit and convince. He knows that he can. So the elves from Valinor, he must see as. How would he see them? He would see them as what, like zealots? Like he can't work with them, right? I mean, he can't. They're not gonna. Are we gonna have the spell of bottomless dread? I might as well actually advance it to 8 since that's what I'm coming back to here. Are we going to have the spell of bottomless dread be like sort of a parallel to the orc debacle, right? So he's there. He's captured the elves, right? He's like, okay, all right, I've got plans. I'm capturing elves again. So this is like the Elf Project Take 2, right? The Elf Project Take 1 was going along fine until Morgoth came and, sort of stomped on things.
Over.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That was disappointing and unfortunate, but that's okay. We've got the project going again. And of course, one of his primary goals here, obviously, one of the his primary initiative here is to undermine this, is to destabilize Beleriand, right? Because if the Noldor have really changed the situation now, right? Before it looked like they were just going to be able to. I mean, the whole Girdle of Melian thing was unexpected, admittedly, but they were going to. But the Girdle of Melian has to have an upside from Sauron's point of view, right? Which is, okay, so we can't get through there and we can't access Doriath, and that's frankly embarrassing, but that leaves all the rest of Beleriand to us, right? So, for the sake of ceding that small percentage, we get everything else. So now we have also trapped them within Doriath, right? And can establish our way through the rest of Beleriand. So again, there's kind of a, sort of a lose-win situation there from Sauron's perspective as far as the Girdle of Melian goes. But apart from the Girdle of Melian, they were kind of having their way with things, right? Things were going fine in Beleriand. Not according to his original vision, mind, right? Because you'll remember we've got orc armies marching around doing stuff now, and that's not the plan. That's not what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it, right? These stompy orcs going around just bashing and destroying things. That's not the picture. So he's capturing elves. He wants to make them into his spies, but he's gonna convert them, not convert them. Convince them? Recruit them? What's his plan? What is Sauron's plan? And is the spell of Bottomless Dread... So we could imagine the spell of Bottomless Dread as okay, I've been working on this, but it's not taking. We need to bring in, the big guns here. So Morgoth comes along and is like, all right, it's okay, fine. Here, let me do it. Wham! Right? And he lays the spell of Bottomless Dread on them, and he's like, there. Now they'll do whatever you want, right? So is this Morgoth kind of backing up Sauron's plan, or is this Morgoth again stomping on Sauron's plan, do you think? I think he is wanting to recruit. He'd like to recruit them. So Marie says, recruit, coerce, convince. He'd like to recruit them and convince them. He's willing to coerce them if he has to, right?
Oh yeah, because he's totally got right on his side. He's totally got right on his side. Yeah. So they'll come around. You'll make them come around. Yeah.
Right, because some of them. Let's be honest. Some of these elves are completely intransigent, right? It's
right,
just
exactly.
There's no talking to these people, right? So, yeah. Marie, I agree. So the more I'm thinking about this, the more I'm agreeing with that. Marie says it's Morgoth is stomping again, but Sauron welcomes it this time. Yes. I think that where he found Morgoth's orc thing distasteful, I think that this he finds quite up his street, right? The way that the kind of impression, right, that Morgoth is able to make. Talk about understatement, right? The kind of impression that Morgoth is able to make. And Tony, again, I'm coming back to you're thinking about Dominion and free will, right? This is what he sees here is Morgoth just overriding them, right? Just crushing their minds and overriding their wills completely, and subjecting their wills utterly to his power. And I think Sauron kind of looks at that and is like, hey, that's good. That works. That. Yeah, that works. Yes, Sauron learns the value of stompiness. Yeah, exactly. It's another step that he has not yet really taken, or at least not yet consciously taken. I mean, what he was doing with the elves originally, right, back in the second season, when he was doing his proto-orc project, what he was doing was still coercive, right? I mean, what he was doing was manipulative. He was doing like brainwashing tactics, and he was. It's not that he was doing right by the elves that he captured or anything, or that he was being gentle or just giving them a firm talking to, but he never did anything that he could not tell himself was not just trying to recruit them, trying to convince them, right? Trying to enlighten them, right? Yeah. Well, Marie, you're right. I mean, okay, so he was performing necromancy and ripping out their souls, admittedly, but for their own good. Like they were benefiting. He was upgrading them. See, that's the thing. He was upgrading them. It was in their best interest, right? He was improving them, because that's what you do when you're the one with the vision. Right? When you're the one who knows what should happen, it's the kind of thing that you can do. Just as the elves were placed by Iluvatar in Middle-earth in order for them to bless and enhance Middle-earth with their own artistry, so Sauron, as Maya, his job is to enhance the children, right? The elves themselves, through his artistry, right? So this is very simple. I mean, it might look really evil, like from the outside, but really he has the best of intentions, and it's not obviously bad, right? And again, obviously, the gap between what he's telling himself and what he's actually doing, right, becomes more and more visible pretty quickly, right? But that's exactly, it's both of those things that I want to kind of keep our focus on here, right? So okay, so where is he now? Morgoth is going to come in and lay the whammy on them, and he's going to be like, okay, you know what? This is what's necessary, right? This is where I failed before. He's going to be like, I failed, I admit it. My original plan, my whole original necromantic thing with the upgrades and stuff, like it didn't work out. And I was too gentle. I was insufficiently forceful. And maybe he has a moment where he's like, oh man, like I was going all man way on them, right? I lost the vision, right? It's about force, right? It's about doing what must be done in order to accomplish things. So, okay, yeah, great. All right, okay, so new plan. Spell of Bottomless Dread, this is great. So, yeah, Tony, maybe this is the Spell of Bottomless Dread is itself, I think, the seed of the Ring of Power, right? The kind of dominion that he wants to establish over the other wielders of the ring, like this is what's going to be like the foretaste of like wraithification and the kind of dominion that he has over the ring wraiths and that he's attempting to establish over the elves and everything, right? This is like he's watching the Spell of Bottomless Dread and is like, oh, okay, I could work with this. Yeah, okay, yes, good, I like that. I like that. Oh, and just a very brief note. So, Tim, I saw your comments. I don't want you to think I'm totally ignoring you, but I totally don't have time to, like, we talked about that stuff, like the character of Melkor and like what it means to depict, his evil and stuff. And I will say briefly, Tim, and this is unfair because I'm saying this briefly and then I'm not going to be able to give you a chance to go back and forth with me on this here and now. But I completely disagree with you about Sauron and Melkor in Tolkien's works. Completely disagree with you about rationality, about destructiveness, and about what evil is in Tolkien. I don't have time to talk about that right now because we talked about that a long time ago, and we don't have time to go over that ground again. But I promise, Tim, if we get a chance, let's have a meal together at Mythmoot next week, and we'll fight about it. I'm totally ready to have this argument with you, but just not tonight. So I just want to let you know I'm not ignoring you. Okay, yeah, rain check on that one exactly. Okay, yeah, Rhiannon, that is interesting. I love that. So Rhiannon says, maybe Sauron sees Morgoth's first attempt at the spell of bottomless dread, which is Ethelos, Angrod's wife, going too far. So he talks Morgoth into not driving them totally mad, but still kind of controlling them. So we get the sort of more nuanced, thing that he does with others like Anile and Maeglin eventually. Yeah. Again, I want to be careful. We have to be careful not to make Sauron nuanced at Morgoth's expense. That's a constant temptation, really. But anyway, yeah, you see what I mean, Rhiannon? Like, it'd be really easy for him to be the brainy one, Sauron to be the brainy one, and Morgoth just comes in and he's like, I shall smash their brains, and then Sauron's like, oh, okay, no, that was good and stuff, but maybe a little more gently, big guy, okay? Because let's think this through, and how this might be more effective. And Morgoth is like, oh, okay, I shall do it differently then. Like, obviously we can't go quite that far. And I'm not...
Morgoth smash!
Morgoth smash, exactly, is kind of where we're ending up there. And... anyway, and again, I know, Rhiannon, I know you weren't suggesting that we depict Morgoth that way, but again, my fear is that it's easy to kind of slide into that, right? There's no way that Sauron sees the usefulness of an alteration to the spell of bottomless dread more than Morgoth does, or more quickly than Morgoth does, right? Morgoth has to be at least as strategically brilliant about this kind of thing as Sauron. But what I think we can see is a difference in their goals, a distinction in their goals, right? As we saw dramatized much more fully in the orc issue, right? And okay, so Tim here, I'm being totally unfair and slightly coming back to what I said I wasn't going to talk about. Since Morgoth's return, he is more interested in destroying things now. His vision has changed. His experiences, the line he crossed in Valinor at the end of season 2 with the Darkening of Valinor, the pain that he has experienced and still experiences from the burning of the Silmarils, his restriction to his form, he has changed. He is no longer the guy with the vision, the unscrupulous vision, but the vision nevertheless, for bigger and better Arda, right, that he was in season 1. Sauron has not changed to that extent. Sauron still has that vision. So Morgoth now is much more interested in smashing things out of spite and anger. Sauron isn't there yet. Post-Luthien, he's going to be a little closer to that, but he's definitely not there yet. So again, that's the distinction. It's not that Sauron is the smart one and Morgoth is dumb. It's that Sauron is wanting to build and Morgoth is a little more interested in destruction. Yeah, exactly. So they have different goals, but they're anyway. Okay. Let's I don't want to totally, we've not talked at all about the ban or anything of episode 7, so let me come back to this.
And we don't have the luxury of a 3-hour podcast like we did on Fridays.
True. Yes, that is one thing. On the one hand, I don't have anything to go off to right away after this, like I usually do. But at the same time, I want to have a certain amount of mercy on folks and not keep people up until 2:00 in the morning. So, yeah, good. Nick, I think that's a really good distinction. Nick says, they have different goals, or he says maybe a better way to put it is that the desired end state is different. Yes, exactly. Or even, Nick, here's another thing I would offer with that. Both of them, as qua evil people in Tolkien's world, right? One of the common characteristics of people, like how you can tell people are on that path, is the, you know, one of the red flags, big red flags, right, is subordinating the means to the ends, right? Being willing to perform these means, you know, at any means in order to achieve those ends. What they are willing to do in order to get there is still different. Not in the sense that Morgoth is like more evilness. I mean, I think that's true, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is Morgoth is about asserting his dominion, and he is ready to smash a lot of it in order to get there. Like, he's ready to smash it and build it up from the rubble. Sauron doesn't want to do that, right? That's not how he wants to get there. That's not the methods that he would choose. Yeah, Marie, exactly. Destruction rather than creation. Both of them, I think. I mean, if you sat them down, right, in a constructive therapy session at this point, halfway through season 4, I think that both Morgoth and Sauron would tell you that ultimately creation is what they're about, right? They're about making a bigger, better, beautiful world, and they're the ones who have the plan and know how to do that. The difference is Sauron wants to take the world, like, sort of as is, right, and move it forward. Morgoth is at the point where he's like, you know what, I'm going to have to wreck most of this joint. Like, we're going to have to really level this place before we can build it up, right? I think that he has become more and more disgusted with the world as it is and wanting to smash it, still telling himself that the smashing is the step, the next, you've got to demolish before you can construct, right? I think that he would still be telling himself that. But I don't, but whereas Sauron, I don't think would say that, right? He still thinks that what is can be used and enhanced and modified, right? Like he's been trying to do with the elves. Yeah. Rhiannon suggests that the smashing of Ethelos's mind could be a reaction to her being rebellious or defying him somehow. Kind of like that. Though, Rhiannon, the big question that I immediately ask is why the difference between Ethelos and Hurin, therefore? Why doesn't he smash Hurin in the same way? He smashes Hurin, but not in the same way, right? Yeah, he doesn't smash. That's not quite right. Hurin is unsmashed. Yeah, no, exactly. I'm not mistaking what he does to Hurin for mercy, Marie, at all. But it's a very different approach. Like, he takes a very different approach with Hurin than he does with Ethelos. So, yeah. Yeah, Tony and Nick are both thinking that Hurin is more valuable to him unsmashed. Yeah, sure. No, I can see that. Well, anyway, I don't want to get too worried about Hurin. And anyway, I want to get back to Thingol. But, okay. I feel much better. I'm so glad that we talked about Sauron, and now I'm a little bit more ready to do a Angband episode in episode 8. You know, and I think that's really good. I think it would be interesting to show. So actually, why don't we kind of finish some of this stuff up while we're here and have been talking about Sauron the entire time. Gothmog and Bulldog, what are they up to with the orc army? They're trying to do like anything, right? They're trying to do anything. They're not successfully doing anything, anything major, right? And I think that we can see. Do we follow Sauron? Is Sauron our, like, not point of view, like the camera is coming out of his eyes, but is he the character that we sort of follow through this episode? I would be fine with that if we did. We followed Thorin and Grethel before, and that was fun.
Yeah.
But so if we follow Sauron, and I kind of like this because this gives us the opportunity to, this kind of gives us an opportunity to think about, to see Morgoth from the outside, to see Gothmog and Bulldog and the armies from the outside, and also, of course, to just hear from Sauron more and kind of get grounded in his point of view. So yeah, so we think about that. I think that he thinks that, and this is going to be a really interesting thing moving forward for the next 25 years, is Sauron despises orcs. despises them. When he looks at the orcs, he still sees his beautiful superior project that got wrecked. So yeah. It's going to be awfully interesting to work that in later on, right? Thinking about Sauron's relationship with orcs in the Third Age. Anyway, never mind. Not the concern right now, but interesting stuff. Let's see. Would Gothmog and Bulldog have opposite military philosophies? Gothmog being about just sort of force, and Bulldog about discipline and order. So we have like soldiers versus like the kind of berserker approach. Maybe. I mean, I could see that. I mean, I think that Bulldog and Gothmog are clearly on the same page. And what's more, there's a clear pecking order. They're not in rivalry with each other, right? Bulldog is the soldier. He takes orders, right? So he serves under Gothmog and I think has no problem with it. Bulldog is not trying to set up on his own in competition with any of them. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a pecking order there. But yeah, I think that Sauron, he's not a big fan of the whole battle plan, because he despises orcs and he doesn't think it's going to work. And what's more, he doesn't, again, he's not a big fan of smashing Beleriand. That's not what he wants exactly. I think that his vision, so what is Sauron's vision? Sauron's vision is he wants to set them against each other so that he can like annex them separately. And by annex, I mean, I said he can, recruit them each separately, like get them all kind of working for him. Yeah. His plan is much more devious. And again, ultimately towards the, conversion, dominion of all of them. But again, sort of as is, and then building on that rather than like, let's just kill them all and be done. Okay. Well, let's get back to Thingol. We got to talk about Thingol here. Okay. Círdan.
Meanwhile, back in Doriath.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, exactly, Nick. It's like a strategy game, right? You absorb one enemy faction at a time. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's exactly his plan. And that's why he wants to foment the problems, like the kinslaying here, which we're about to talk about. So Círdan has figured it out. Now remind me, because it was like 4 weeks ago, which is like, might as well be 10 years ago, that we talked about this. So remind me what we talked about with Círdan. Círdan, Thuringwethel comes, right? Is it Thuringwethel or Sauron? One of the two of them comes. Which one was it? I can't remember. Comes in disguise, right? They have figured in episode 5, that was the Thuringwethel point of view episode where she's going and spying on people. And so that's where we're seeing everything being built and people's capitals and stuff. So we're visiting and seeing, the Leaguer of Angband being established and all that kind of thing. So we get that through Thuringwethel's eyes in episode 5, and she picks up, that was 4? I thought that was 5. No, 5 was the Merith Adderthad. I'm sorry. 4. Right. So in 4, she goes through and she picks up all that stuff. And she, okay. So she learns not everything. She doesn't have the whole story, right? But she learns several things, and she comes to Círdan with several pieces of information. The primary piece of information that she comes to him with in episode 6 is that it was Fëanor who burned the ships. And we know that Círdan was super concerned about the burning of the ships, like he would be, right? And learning that Fëanor burned the ships leads him to a really horrible suspicion, right? Because he hasn't been told. Did we say, does Thuringwethel take a shot in the dark, right, at the end with Círdan?
I thought she did.
Does she take a shot in the dark, like that? You know, does she plant the idea that does she plant the idea that of like, not the kinslaying, like exactly what happened, but you know, if they took those ships and burned them, is she, you know, she the one who kind of floats it out there, like, did the Noldor take those ships by violence, right? Did they commit violence against your people?
I remember us saying that she doesn't have to tell him any lies.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly. He's speculating. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So Maria's very kindly, as she is so good at doing, reminding me of our trajectory here. Episode 4, she figures out that she knows the Noldor are hiding something. Círdan is the only one with any suspicion. And then in episode 5, Círdan is the only one with suspicions. He is clearly leaving the Marath Adderthad uneasy and uncertain. And so they identify him as their mark. Sauron and Thuringwethel do. And then Thuringwethel comes to him and tells him that Feanor burned the ships. And then encourages, he is then speculating and following the logic train, because that really is the key fact, right? From that, he can pretty much work out that the kinslaying or something darn near to it happened, right? That one key fact is enough. And she eggs his suspicions on. So Círdan is now coming to Thingol and saying, okay, now, so there was discussion, I know, on the boards about his sort of demeanor, his sort of attitude. I think that he is going to be cautious, right? Because it's not like he doesn't have a smoking gun, right? The, you know, smoking rubble of ships, not the same thing. He doesn't have a smoking gun. All he has is one very disquieting fact, of which he doesn't have proof, by the way, right? But, you know, it fits. And then he has a very disturbing chain of speculation coming from that. Nick, I think we had said that Thuringwethel was going to go to Círdan disguised as a Cinda, who had, like, overheard this from the Noldor, right? So she was claiming that she got this information from the Noldor, and so she was coming to Círdan because she was, you know, disturbed, like that they were lying, right? And then he never sees that random lady again. Yeah, exactly. For which there could be any number of perfectly valid explanations, obviously. Anyway, so Círdan, again, it fits with Círdan's speculations because Círdan knows there are no orc bodies, right? They're like, there's no evidence that there was a battle there. And so his only theory, the only theory possible, right, was that the enemy must have burned them, which means there must have been a battle, but there was no evidence of a battle. So that inconsistency has been bothering him, but the real solution was inconceivable, especially to him, right? Círdan is literally the last elf in Arda who would leap to the conclusion, maybe they just set fire to these greatest of all ships ever built, just like wantonly, right? I mean, that is literally going to be the last thing he's going to imagine. And when he's told it, it's going to shock him so much, as it should, that he is... that his mind is going to be opened to the horrible possibility, though I think in his mind, in one sense, barely more horrible possibility, because anyone who could do that, anyone who could burn those ships like Feanor did, leaving us, and of course, and he would figure out the Helcaraxa thing too, right? Abandoning Fingolfin, again, that also follows logically based on the facts that they know and what he learns. Yeah. All of a sudden now the kinslaying is no longer inconceivable to him.
So here's what I'm thinking is that, and I think I'm probably saying the really obvious thing, but like you said, you know, he doesn't absolutely know, right, but he suspects well enough that he can go tell Thingol. when Thingol confronts Angrod and Finrod, then he's confronting them to get the truth out of them. Yes. I had a thought, and I don't know if we've talked about this. Would Melian be with Thingol, and would she do one of her things with them? You know, like a Galadriel mind thingy with them or something. I mean, could she be part of that confrontation and have an effect on those guys, or I don't know.
Okay, so let's think about this. Thingol's a little impetuous, right? I mean, there is a lot in Thingol's history which says, I often talk before I think, right? We see this with Beren. We see this with the dwarves who kill him, right? I mean, like, you know, this is sort of known, right? So I think that what if Círdan and Thingol are talking privately, right? So this is not like a throne room issue, right? Círdan is calm and Thingol's like, hey, that's great. You know, like, let's go, you know, have a, whatever we're going to have.
Let's go beat the truth out of these guys.
Well, no. Like, first they just go talk, right? They talk and then Círdan is like, okay. And then he lays it out for him, right? And Círdan is going to lay it out like calmly and patiently. I really like this. I forget who it was. I think it was it Hakon, Maria? I can't remember which one it was. Hakon. It was Hakon, who was saying that, you know, Círdan is going to come and he's going to be like a more in sorrow than in anger kind of deal, right? Where he's going to be like, I have to tell you, and I'm not 100% sure, but let me walk you through what I've seen, and then I'm just going to leave it to you, my king, to judge. And so Thingol hears this, right? So he hears this stuff later, and he comes to the same conclusion that Círdan did, but he comes to it harder. And Angrod and Finrod are there, right? So he then picks up and he goes like storming into the room. So he bursts into the room where Angrod and Finrod are, and he speaks rashly, right, to them, accusing them, right? I marvel that you come thus red-handed, you know, from with the
we should use that line.
We absolutely should use that
copyright.
Line. I mean, that is, and besides which, remember, one of the beauties of the Film Project from the beginning, since we're not actually producing it, we can say whatever we want. So we are imagining full text rights. So anyway, yeah, so he bursts in on them. Nick, I'm thinking they're probably not in the hot tub. Oh, you're thinking of Círdan and Thingol in the hot tub. Yeah, no, Círdan and Thingol can't be in a hot tub because I don't want Thingol to be like dripping wet, like when he's making his accusation. He needs a little more gravitas than that, I think. But
and this will really be the first time we see Thingol being hot-headed, right? I mean, we haven't really seen him demonstrate this kind of behavior.
I don't think so. No, because I mean, again, we can't make him a caricature, but he's definitely prone to this. Like, he's prone to temper and to rash assertions of his own will, right? And we'll see, like, the mistake he makes is he doesn't go straight to his wife and talk this over first, right?
That's right.
Instead, he runs right in and confronts them, and his anger, right? And then Angrod is feeling all sore, right, from his conflicts with the Feanorians, and Angrod, we know, is also not the longest tempered person in the world, right? He's got a fairly short fuse himself, and so he busts out and admits the truth, and Finrod is like all uncomfortable in every direction, right? Like, oh, Thingol, yeah, well, how about that? And then, oh, Angrod, yeah, well, okay. Because this whole time, Finrod is trying he's trying, and I love that first point, right? Finrod has come to Thingol because he is trying. He is the number one. He's not the ambassador, but he is the number one advocate for cooperation, not just like the intermingling of the Sindar and the Noldor, as we have seen in Nevrast, for instance, but the alliance with Doriath itself, right? He wants to see Doriath being actively involved in the larger campaign against Morgoth, and he's trying to bring that about. And he sees what a PR nightmare this whole situation is, right? And so when Aang, you know, he's got to be, you know, not rolling his eyes, that's belittling, right? But the, you know, the kind of like, oh, great, you know, now
head in hand.
yes,
kind of.
exactly, yeah.
There goes the plan. There goes my hope of a joint project.
Exactly, right. This is going to set things back a long
Right.
ways. And in doing this, he's very wise, right? He's very wise. I mean, he knows how important it is for them all to work together. He sees even, could we even have Finrod say something like, you know, something along the lines of this, I'm sure this is exactly what the enemy would want, is for us to be divided in this way. You know, like that Finrod perceive, even if Finrod does not directly, in fact, perceive the hand of the enemy at work in this whole story, right? And maybe
well, I mean,
does,
it's hard for him to, because he knows what the truth is, right? So it's not like he's not saying you've been misled by the enemy, right?
That's the problem, right?
Yeah,
that's the cleft stick that Finrod is in. Like he knows that the Noldor in fact have done wrong, and he knows that he is culpable, not of the kinslaying, but of hiding the kinslaying. Right? He's been part of the cover-up.
But I could see him saying something like, "This is what the enemy would want," as his way of trying to diplomatically, you know, mend fences or kind of like stitch things together, kind of thing. So yeah, I think that makes sense that he would sort of take that stand or try to take that approach.
Yeah, but I mean, it's he's in no position. He's got to see he's in no position. Right?
He's at a serious disadvantage.
I mean, this is yes, yeah. Nick, I agree. Like suggesting to Thingol that he is being a pawn of the enemy, probably not the best route the best tack to take in this particular moment. I agree, but
like if anything, that's going to make Thingol even more angry.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, Thingol is not. He's not going to hear that. But because again, Thingol's response, you know, if Finrod attempts to do the whole like, oh, but you know, this is just what the enemy wants, right? And we're playing directly into the hands of the enemy, and it is doubtless them. You know, this whole situation is doubtless partly, you know, manipulated by the malice of the enemy. But like Thingol's response to that has to be like, yeah, right, okay, but did the Noldor in fact slay our kin, and did you in fact, oh cousin mine, cover this up deliberately? Okay, yeah, the answer is yes. Okay, that's what. So let's deal with that fact first, right? You know, so it's again, there's no, yeah. Yeah. So, how are Melian, Luthien, and Galadriel involved?
Thank you. I was going to say that. I was going to say I'd like to include Galadriel in that.
It's time it's time to bring some X chromosomes into this discussion here, where I don't know. I can't help but think they're slightly needed here.
Do they come in? By the way, do one or all of them show up during this confrontation, or is it after the fact that they actually come and try to, you know?
Question: how often do we see Melian walking around? I just realized that I kind of, and I never even scrutinized this in my own mind at all, but I just realized that for years I've kind of pictured Melian almost permanently attached to her throne. You know, like Melian,
or like the Lady of Shalott up in the tower. And
well, she's like she is like ex cathedra, right? Like she's always in her place. Like you go to Melian, she doesn't come to you. Like you don't pass Melian in the hallway on the way to lunch, right? Like you know, like I mean, of course you should, right? I don't, you know, I'm not suggesting she actually remains there permanently.
She just like, you know, transports herself places, right?
You know, maybe, I know she's got to have a body, but anyway, it's No, I just kind of realized in my head that's like I associate Melian so firmly with the like giving pronouncements and sitting there in the throne room and staring people.
The grotto from episode 3?
Yes, yes.
The epicenter of the girdle.
Yeah.
But still,
yeah,
could be the same
no,
thing.
Exactly. No, I'm not suggesting we limit her to that. I was just realizing that, like in my own mind, I have that problem.
But have we had her? The other question is, so far in the show, have we had her walking around? And
well, again, like we've not we haven't run into her at the water cooler or anything. But we
no. But I mean, has she been kind of?
No, definitely. I mean, when she does the girdle, she's like advancing out into the
sure.
Yeah. No, we've definitely had her mobile. Exactly, Nick. And I know that's true. Yeah. She was at the feast earlier in episode 1.
Yeah, she participates in like normal earthly conversations.
No, exactly. She's not totally.
Well, and we've had her talk to Galadriel, right? Haven't we already had like some conversations between her and
which
Galadriel?
Don't have to happen while she's sitting on her chair. So yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Like
I could be walking somewhere.
I'm willing to take her out of her chair. Let's.
Any conversations between Melian and Luthien? I know we had Galadriel and Luthien become friends, right? Have we done any kind of development of Luthien at this point, or we may not need to worry too much about it?
We had the Luthien moment, of course, at the Merith Atherthad, which will be the last time we had Luthien.
That's right.
It's the last time we saw her. I like the suggestion. Was it Rihanna? Was it your suggestion? Somebody was suggesting that we sort of set up as a setup for the ban. We have Galadriel teaching Luthien a Quenya song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she is. Marie, exactly. Marie says Luthien has kind of taken on Galadriel as a sort of surrogate sister. Yeah.
Right.
So we have Galadriel teaching Luthien a Quenya song of the Blessed Realm. Right. Rhiannon, that was your suggestion. Great. I really love that suggestion, actually. So we show them together. But anyway, so how does this come in? I don't think we have them come in, like we have them break in and be like, "What are you guys doing here?" And why?
Right.
This is why we can never leave y'all alone.
We can't leave you alone for a minute.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh man. Yeah. No. So we I think we have. Thingol
goes back to his private apartments.
Right. He goes to talk to Melian about this. So he has he does it halfway right. He goes to talk to Melian. He just doesn't do it. He should have done that before going to confront his cousins, but he doesn't. So I could see a scene. I could see two scenes, right? So we have the four-way, right? The Círdan. Well, like Círdan is kind of a hanger-on by this time, right? But we have the Círdan and Thingol with Angrod and Finrod, and then Thingol leaves, right?
Storms out
with some heat. So he is angry, and I mean I think that the conversation doesn't go on for very much longer after Finrod attempts to point out the whole "this is the will of the enemy at work," and anyway, right. So Thingol leaves and he goes to Melian. So we have a Thingol and Melian conversation about this, and then we have a Galadriel and Angrod and Finrod conversation, right?
Yes, that makes sense.
And yeah, Marie, I agree. Galadriel's got to be ticked, right? That they've spilled the secret that she's been concealing the entire time that she's been here, right?
Now she did tell Celeborn, right?
Yes, she has told Celeborn. She told Celeborn.
But he's not said anything, of course.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. He has preserved her confidence.
Boy, I'm sure Círdan never finds that out. He'll be pissed at Celeborn.
Well, that's going to come out, right? That's going to come out in like episode 10 or something.
Maybe that's why they end up getting
That's going to be the engagement, like the public
banished.
No.
How they end up in Lorien.
We talked about this a bit before, which is that Thingol is going to find out that Celeborn knew, and he's going to be angry. And Celeborn's response to that is going to be to propose to Galadriel, right? Like he's
That's right.
Celeborn doubles down, basically, right, on his solidarity with the Noldor. And that's for episode 11. That's fun.
We have Celeborn, Celeborn's been from Círdan, right? He's been sort of a Círdan man.
Yes.
But this also would kind of explain maybe why he ends up in Lorien eventually, because this kinslaying is going to actually redound and echo through the years. I would say,
right.
that
a little bit of tension.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know that Tolkien did that much of that. Well, of course he didn't in Lord of the Rings, but I mean, I would think it would be sort of a sore point for quite some time, since these guys lived for so long.
yeah, exactly. And Ojibray, yes, this is the start of the reason why Galadriel leaves Doriath. I mean, I do think that this is the beginning of the end of Galadriel's happy time in Doriath, when she was trying to recover herself, and this is not yet really fully helping her to do this. By the way, Marie, I think it's fine for us to wait, and it might seem awkward for us to wait till episode 11, all the way to 11, until the truth comes out about Celeborn, but I think it's fine, actually. Thingol is going to figure out right away that Galadriel's been hiding this, right? Obviously. But the thing that he doesn't know and will not yet find out is that Celeborn knew.
Right.
And I would think that he might be inclined to encourage Galadriel to leave, but Melian won't go there. Melian wants Galadriel to stay. So Galadriel's going to stick around, even though things are a little tenser for her. And she probably doesn't hang out with Thingol quite as much as she used to do. But anyway, yeah. But she's this
could be the start of Luthien getting corrupt. It's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Luthien kind of, I don't know. It's late. I'm punchy, but you know what I mean. It's like
no. I agree. The sort of the gap between her and her dad. Yes,
exactly.
Absolutely.
That's what I was just thinking. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which then, when the Baron thing comes up, Luthien's not acting strangely to us. I mean, in other words, it's kind of been coming.
I would think that the way that Luthien would handle this now, Galadriel's opinion of Thingol is going to go down.
Right.
Galadriel's going to disapprove of Thingol. Luthien is going to see Thingol being harsh to Galadriel. She's not going to like it. I agree with that. That it's going to open up, but she's going to make excuses for Thingol now. Right?
Sure. Sure. That makes sense.
So that the experience she has with Beren she's going to bring Beren back to her father's throne room. Right. And she's going to do that believing and hoping and expecting that things are going to be okay, that she can make things okay, with her dad. And it's only what is going to change for Luthien after that confrontation with Beren in the throne room is she's going to be like, okay, I was making excuses for dad before, but I was wrong. Galadriel was right all along. She's not going to be 100% on Galadriel. She's going to see Galadriel's point of view, but she's still going to be making excuses for dad at this point. So Nick, the business with Celeborn, there's no reason for anyone to know that he knew. So he doesn't have to keep lying to Thingol. He's not going to carry. He's not going to.
He just avoids him.
Well, no, because the only secret that isn't going to come out until episode 11 is that he knew beforehand.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Thingol necessarily suspects that. And Celeborn certainly, it's not like there's a duty for Celeborn to say, when Thingol comes out with this, there's no duty for Celeborn to be like, actually, I already knew that. Because in saying that, he's betraying Galadriel's confidence.
Right.
Not just the confidence that the kinslaying happened, right? Because to Celeborn, from the beginning, it's never been about the kinslaying. It's about her, right? The reason he has kept her confidence is that he has pity on her personal suffering, right? And so even now, the whole kinslaying thing is out of the bag, but he's not gonna, for him to come to Thingol and be like, oh yeah, I knew about this a long time ago, is not only unwise as far as he is concerned, but it would be like a counselor, talking about her personal issues, right?
Well, and given that Galadriel is going to be seeing a lot less of Thingol, and Galadriel is going to be hurting as a result of this, he's still going to have his attention on her.
Exactly.
So Celeborn is still going to be focused on Galadriel. And I don't think it would ever occur to Thingol to say, no. Gee, I wonder if Celeborn, you know what I mean?
If he knew about it all along. Exactly. It'll come as a shock to him when he finds out. He never could imagine that Celeborn would do that, that he would withhold that obviously important information and not do what Círdan did, which has come to him as soon as he learns about this. But and it's not that Celeborn doesn't care about the kinslaying, it's that in Celeborn's mind, like his pity for Galadriel, his concern for Galadriel personally outweighs the larger political interest. Like he feels it to be more important to help Galadriel through her difficult time here than it is for Thingol to know about the kinslaying.
And I could totally see him finding out about Celeborn being the straw that breaks, and he banishes them, or or hastens their departure. You know what I mean? Once he finds out.
Yes, exactly. And exactly. So that like the two of them, after they get married, are not going to set up their permanent home here in Doriath, right? Neither one of them will be 100%. I mean, I think everybody will be more comfortable when the two of them move out and get their own place, right? Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's right. But Melian is not going to be okay with booting Galadriel right away. I think Thingol's impulse will be to be like, you're not super welcome here anymore, Galadriel, right? Because you've been lying to us this whole time. You have. I mean, he's going to be upset. And Galadriel is Galadriel. She's not going to take the ban lying down. She's going to speak against the ban, right? She would. She's gonna be like, this is a stupid idea, and you're doing the work of the enemy here. Like this is
which is going to make him even more pissed.
Exactly. So he's going to be like, there's the door, and Melian's going to be like, no.
Right.
And she's going to insist on allowing Galadriel to stay, and Galadriel is going to kind of want to go. We need to have a scene, right? We need to have a scene where Galadriel's going to go. She's done, right, with Thingol. Yeah. She's done. Yeah. She's going to leave, and Celeborn convinces her to stay, right?
Oh yeah.
And that can be the first moment. So far, the interest has been kind of one directional, right? Not like it's totally unreciprocal. I mean, she does like him, right? She does appreciate what he's done. But
I think haven't we made the parallel to Faramir and Éowyn? That's what it makes me think of.
Yes, I think we did make that parallel, and yes,
and
exactly.
It develops that same way for Éowyn. As it does for Éowyn.
Exactly.
That same.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that will be the moment, right, when she's going to leave and storm off, and he's, is like, do you have no reason to stay, right? And she'll be like, oh wait, actually, yeah, come to think of it, I do. Yeah, exactly, Nick. That's when she realizes that she likes him. Exactly, right? Yeah. That's it. That's it. Yeah. So and of course, and that can transition towards their engagement and the outing of Celeborn's deception and stuff. So yeah, I think that's all. This all to me makes perfect sense. I mean, there's no reason, from anyone's point of view, there isn't any reason for Celeborn to say, and no reason for anybody to suspect really that he knew.
Suspect.
So yeah, I don't think keeping that under wraps until episode 11 is going to be hard at all. Okay.
Besides, Thuringwethel's no longer around to whisper to Círdan,
right?
Celeborn's getting pretty palsy with Galadriel. You think he didn't know about it?
Right. Exactly. Here's an issue that I have, and we're coming close to the end here. Orodreth and Merrill. I'm conflicted. I don't want Orodreth and Merrill to steal Celeborn and Galadriel's thunder.
Oh.
I don't want that at all. I think that the engagement, proclamation of the engagement, and then marriage wedding of Galadriel and Celeborn, that's like the big reconciliation arc. Like, really, Celeborn and Galadriel's relationship is really one of the core, like, forgiveness and reconciliation arcs in the entire season, right? And them coming together again, like, so it should be like it really looks like the Sindar and the Noldor are headed in different directions, and that, like, this is never going to be able to be reconciled now. This is a complete loss, though some are still wanting to fight for it. That is, for reconciliation and for working together. And it's the marriage of Galadriel and Celeborn that sets the example, right? That's the, like, sign of hope. Like, that is the thing that brings things. So if Orodreth and Merrill get married now, like a random, and I'm sorry, my apologies, Orodreth, but you're a random Noldo, right? A random Noldo and a random Cinda, right? I mean, come on, Orodreth, nobody even knows who your parents are, right? So come on, you're random. So Orodreth and Merrill, two random elves get married. Like, that just steals the thunder of the whole thing. I don't like it at all. So let's get them married earlier. Let's just have them already married, right? Like, it's fine. I'm not saying they can't get married, but have them get married before the ban. Then it's fine, right? Then you see, then their marriages serve different functions, right? Orodreth and Merrill's wedding then serves to be like the false beginning of what looked like developing into a really peaceful cooperative thing. Like, it looks like the sign of the beautiful partnership to come, right, from the Merith Atherthad. So we've seen them getting all smoochy and everything at the Merith Atherthad, right? So after the Merith Atherthad, they get married right away, right? You know, they've had plenty of time to, like, book a hall and everything. So they get married soon. Yeah, exactly, Marie. But time passes, right? And they had a lot of quality time together at the Merith Atherthad. So they get married afterwards, right? Like episode 6, Thuringwethel and Círdan are chatting, and while they're chatting, like, you know, like the wedding invitation, or like the wedding announcement, right? The newlywed photo is like right there on Círdan's fridge in the background, right? Like they've gotten married off stage. It doesn't matter, because who cares about Orodreth and Merrill anyway? I'm sorry, that's too much of an exaggeration. They're lovely people and important characters, but so much less important than Galadriel and Celeborn. Right. Anyway, yeah. So they Nick, exactly right. Maybe they come by on their honeymoon tour. Who knows, right? But they've recently gotten married. And
taking selfies.
Yeah, exactly. We see, when Thuringwethel comes in, Orodreth is like, on Facebook looking at, the selfies that they've posted on their honeymoon, whatever.
Their honeymoon. Yeah. Perfect.
So yeah, we do need to figure out how to let people know that the wedding did in fact take place. But that's okay. That's what you clever script people.
Well, that certainly can be a topic of conversation during the feast. It could be referred to in once or twice or more times. By
everybody kind of sees which direction the wind is blowing at the feast, right?
Right.
The only question is, how soon Orodreth is going to make an honest elf of Merrill right after the feast. So that's all fine. Again, yeah. So that's so that'll work as long as it happens before the ban. If they get married after the ban, then like we're going to spoil Galadriel and Celeborn, and they're going to be like the second elvish couple to do that, and it's not going to work. So anyway, all right. So that was the main thing I wanted to say about that. Other quick question on the ban. I like, obviously, the ban on speaking Quenya. That's like the core of the thing in the text. No problem. No issues with that. The wearing of jewels. I like that a lot. One thing that I would say, I don't think there need be any ban on writing. First of all, I think that it's... the ban itself is already borderline unreasonable by Thingol, right? For him to say, saying, if you speak Quenya, then you are a slayer of kin unashamed. Okay, really? Like, seriously? If you speak Quenya, if you speaking your native tongue means that you don't care about the kinslaying? Like, that, you know, the lines that he's drawing there, not 100% reasonable to begin with. It would be way more unreasonable to say, you know, have you once written a book in Quenya? Burn it and rewrite it in Sindarin. Like that, no. Like, that's ridiculous. Because it's about speech. It's about speech. It's about him wanting to, like, punish the culture who, like, you have to show your penitence. If you are repentant, like, you're going to do penance for this. Like, as a whole culture, the Noldor are going to do penance for this. If you are sorry, right? If you are repentant at all for this horrible thing that you did, then you're going to show that by speaking only our language, right? You are going to, in other words, sort of culturally acclimate yourself to us, not us to you. Remember, that's a reversal, right? The Noldor were establishing their kingdoms and they were welcoming the Sindar to them, and the Sindar were being sort of acclimated into these Noldoran kingdoms, right? And Finrod says, no way, that stops now.
Thingol
says that stops now, right? Because we now see your culture, your people, like, are corrupt, right? And we will not stand for that. So you're gonna instead acclimate. You're gonna show your humility. You're gonna abase yourself. You're going to acclimate your culture to us, to the culture of the kin of the people that you killed in penance, right? I can see, so like you can see sort of his thinking there. But again, I cannot think that extends to, and if there is anything written in Quenya, or if you have Quenya runes on your, you know, swords or whatever else, that those have to be scratched out and redone. I don't think so. Yeah. Rhiannon says, how would Thingol not look like a hypocrite when he asks for the Silmaril set in the Nauglamir after banning the wearing of jewels? Oh, he wouldn't not look like a hypocrite, I believe, Rhiannon.
Well, and Nick even says, and yet he adopts the Tengwar made up by the Kinslayer in chief. You know, I mean, there's two things there, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, you know, don't do as I do, do as I say, sort of.
Absolutely. And
thing.
It will be a lot of fun to work out, like, the rationale from Thingol's point of view, right? Because he'll have a rationale. It'll make sense to him.
Absolutely.
It'll make sense to him, but it'll be inconsistent, and it'll be, right. I mean, like, bigger and bigger red flags, right? That Thingol is going down the wrong road there.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm always sad about Thingol.
Yes. He is sad, as are so many Tolkien characters.
It's true.
Okay. We didn't get to... All right. One last question, then we'll go. Seriously. Last one.
Okay.
Melian, what does she do? What does she say? What is her contribution to this? I've got to think that the ban, she has to at least qualify it. Like, his initial impulse is probably to do something worse.
Well, maybe it is to do the books and the swords and the whole thing. Maybe that's where he starts, and her compromise is to get him to just do the, you know, speaking piece.
Yeah. Maybe he wants...
That would be the reaction he would have, is, I want it all gone everywhere. I don't want to see, hear, you know, I mean, I can see
I'm actually thinking even more than that. Yeah, like, banish the Noldor entirely. Like, he's going to be I want them off this continent.
I didn't think of that. Right? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want the Noldor out of Beleriand entirely. I never want to see a Noldor again as long as I live, right? I can totally see Thingol doing that, right? And
I can see then the Quenya band being the step down, you know, right. I mean, that would make sense.
Right. And, you know, she can say, they've already had the conversation, right? Where, like, she tells him about, for her experience of meeting Galadriel, like, there is a darkness that lies behind. There's more than that we know. Some evil has been done. Mm-hmm. And now she's like, okay, and now we know what it is, right? But that doesn't change what she thought before, right? Like, you know, although they have not been sent, very certainly not been sent as emissaries of the Valar, yet they have come, and they have come at our time of need, and that is not for no reason, right? So let's be a little smart about this. And, so she would be going in the generally sort of in the direction, right, of reconciliation, right? She certainly wants to leave the door open to she's not saying it's okay, right? She's not trying to oppose him. Her response to Thingol isn't like, oh, come on, snap out of it, honey. It's not that, but you're making a big deal out of nothing, right? She's not saying that and anything like it. But she is certainly going to say, it is like, this is...
We're faced with a bigger threat.
Yes.
There's a bigger evil out there that we need to come together to defeat, kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. And Nick, exactly as you say, if Thingol in his rashness wants to say, I want the Noldor gone out of Beleriand, I mean, one could easily say to Thingol, you and who else's army are going to get rid of the Noldor, right? Like, you can't do, this is not practical. And she can say that, I think, sort of gently.
Yeah, I mean, let's not have war between ourselves. Let's
not have war between ourselves. And, like, it's like, and she could even say something like, like, the Noldor have come, like, that is what is, and there is nothing that we can do to change that. And perhaps that, should not be changed. Perhaps it will prove to be, that although they have done evil, it will prove to, to be good that they are here. So if he just wants to be like, I never want to see another Noldo again, I never want them any near anyone, any Sindar, ever, so him saying, I want them to never speak Quenya again in my hearing, is definitely a serious step back from his first impulse.
Which makes it even more interesting when Galadriel gets all ticked off at him, because he looks at it as he relented.
Yes.
Why should you be ticked at me? You shouldn't be pissed at me. I mean, I relented.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Galadriel, he's going to think he's being very tolerant with Galadriel. Right. Yeah. Whereas, Galadriel is not going to see it that way. Yeah. Okay. Good. I think we got a pretty good. We got a pretty good picture of this. So we ended up doing it all mostly, and it's not 1 o'clock yet, so that's
not
good.
Too bad.
All right. Excellent. So our next session will be 3 weeks from tonight, because we've got Mythmoot next week and then the 4th of July the week after. So we're going to be, and I'm going to be away that week anyway with my family. So June 11th, 3 weeks from tonight will be our next session. And we're going to be doing more creative content. We're going to be doing the thing which we didn't get to last time.
Yay!
Casting. We're going to talk about casting concepts for our cast. We're not going to be casting, we're not going to be nominating folks.
Just
we're going to be
direction.
Conceptually working out what our casting call will look like for for the people we need to cast this year. Yep. So that's the plan for next time. Oh.
And everybody tweet Dave that he missed such a good episode.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Takako, you are absolutely right about that. We'll have to think about that. Anyway, Thursday-ish.
Oh.
Anyway, that week of July 11th, Takako's right. We do have a conflict there. This is our new time, and we're still kind of working it out with our other programming. That's true. July 11th is the date of the next Mythgard Movie Club, as I recall, which I'm supposed to be at, too. So... yes, we're talking about Camelot that night. Right. Got it. Yes. It's a little bit earlier. We'll sort it out. Maybe we'll joust or something. But we'll sort it. It'll probably be that night. I think we can handle it. Anyhow, so stay in touch for the further details, but I think we can still plan on Thursday, the 11th of July. And if not, pay attention to social media, and we'll post it on the forums too. So we'll be able to do that. And yes, tomorrow night, so Friday night at 7 p.m. There's going to be a script discussion for the detailed script outline of episode 3, the Marathonathon. So if you want to take part in working and ironing out the details more and actually doing the outline of the whole episode, join Marie and Nick and others who have been doing such a good job. And I always look forward to reading the script outlines when we get there at the end of the season. So for episode 5, the Marathonathon, that's going to be happening. Don't forget our 500th episode giveaway that we're doing. Send an email to info@signumu.org and we'll do our drawing on Wednesday and let you next Wednesday.
Wednesday, what date?
Wednesday, I should say a date for those who are listening asynchronously. Wednesday,
right.
The 26th of June, 2019.
Which means that this episode better be up and out pretty soon.
It will be.
Huh?
It will be. It will be. I promise.
With banners and fireworks. Yay!
Yeah, very good. Okay, thanks everybody. That was a really fun 500th episode, and I will see you guys soon. Bye now. Okay, stop.
I can't
recording.
believe you didn't end your episode, your 500th episode, with your standard closing.
Oh, I'll have to add that on. See, we're in a different context. I totally forgot. Yeah. You're right. How ironic. After 500 episodes, I finally forgot to say thanks for listening and Godspeed. That's hysterical. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Sweet. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, perfect, Nick. Nick put a taunting tweet up to Dave Cale. You missed it. We convinced Tokyo Prophet Tokyo of the wisdom of splitting of Valerian and its realms into an additional 2 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, right. I gotta. It's been a long time since I've done an evening broadcast that ended with "Thanks for listening and Godspeed." Seriously, I think it's. This is my this time of night. This is my exploring the Lord of the Rings and Mythgard Academy slot. So anyway, whatever. Okay,
I gotta say that doing it late like this for me is I can guarantee you I'm gonna get so punchy. I'm gonna come up with some really stranger ideas that I do in the morning. You know, I'll just start talking about things and be totally punchy. So look forward to that.
Absolutely, and thanks everybody who joined us tonight. It was great. Not only were there quite a few of you here, but there were lots of you who stayed all the way through, even though it's late. Thanks for joining us.
I've been in a long time, and it's great to see you guys.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, maybe 3 weeks. We'll see. Huh?
Yeah. No, I think it'll work out. We can either start the movie night earlier on, maybe a little bit, because it's supposed to start at 8:30, so it starts an hour and a half before our start time.
Okay.
So
all right.
I'll see if maybe we can start that a little earlier, and then that will be the easiest thing. If not, even if we have to shift to another day that week, we'll figure it out. But
and Maria, I'll talk to you. I'm not sure if you are, but you should be an admin on the Film page on Facebook. And I realized today that those pages actually have an event section where we could be putting the information for episodes up there as well. So we should be doing that. Yeah.
True. Let's see, Bree, do we want to do more concept art, character design stuff before casting nominations? Yeah, I think we can do that. Yeah, I think the nominations are going to come pretty close to the end. So this is one of the things.
The nominations are going to come at the normal time. It's just this is more concept about what we are. Us talking about what our vision is, as opposed to waiting until the very end to say no, that person's not right.
Right. And I have loved this whole shape that we've been doing this season, with the interspersing the creative things in between. So Bri, we certainly will get around to discussing some more concept art and stuff. We can definitely do that. So we'll definitely have. So Bri, we will also get to the point at the end of the season, which we're getting closer to now, where we'll be reviewing stuff that came out. So far we've been doing a lot of the projecting forward stuff, let's think about the concepts and talk through the issues. And then we'll be looking at, actual drawings and listening to the actual music and looking at the maps and reading the outlines, right? So we'll do the final, the post-production phase of season 4, where we still go through all those things. Yeah, no, exactly, Bree. We're very excited to do the casting discussions earlier this time, so that we can kind of get ahead of that stuff. So, yep. Good. Very good. Okay.
All right. Well, you're all jazzed up, so you're going to probably work for another 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to go pass out.
It's a little while before bedtime yet around here, but especially since it's officially the end of school. My
Or is everybody still staying up?
Yeah, my last kid is out. So no, they're asleep by now. At least they're supposed to be asleep by now. But I don't have to get up in the morning is the point, because I'm not driving anybody into school anymore.
By the way, have either of your boys exhibited night owl behavior like you have?
A little bit. Not what neither of them do is sleep in the morning, so they can't get night owl cred until they sleep in the morning.
Yeah, that's true.
True. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, good. That's right. So you don't have to get up to drive them, and you don't have film to do in the morning. So there you go.
Right. Exactly. Oh, and Nick, you're right that season 4 is definitely going to have way more sessions in it than any other season we've done so far. But I think it's a really good addition.
Yeah.
I think that the changes we have made even just from the fact that I can't remember a season where we've had so many really wonderful sort of theoretical discussions. I mean, we've done more bigger world building stuff this season than I ever remember doing, and I agree. I think it's fantastic. So anyway, loving it. If we're going to do it, we might as well do it right.
This one too.
Yep. Thanks for listening, and Godspeed. Although the theoretical budget of our hypothetical blockbuster may be unlimited, the production budgets of this and the rest of our fun alternative educational projects are unfortunately not. If you have enjoyed joining our production team, please consider donating at signumuniversity.org/fund.